So today is August 9th, and we are doing a mid-August tour for you of the garden. Stick around if you want to see what we've grown this year.
It's pretty bad.
It has been better, but it's not that bad. So like we said, it's August 9th, and we wanted to kind of give you guys a quick tour of what we have growing this year and kind of what everything's looking like. If you've been following our channel, you know that it is not our year. We've had a lot of problems this year with soil and adjusting to a new property and all of that, and kind of just making plans for next year. But this garden that the previous owners used is doing pretty well, so we're going to show you around inside of it. So to start us off this year, our garden is quite different because we have a lot of pollinators that are right here on the outside, and they are doing so well. Many of these are perennials that the previous owners did establish here, which we really thank them for because they are gorgeous and we're really glad to have them. The only thing that we did put in that's an annual are some zinnias, so we'll show you just the flower bed real quick. Zinnias in the barrel right here, and they are gorgeous. These are saved seed. I made a video about saving your own zinnia seed because that worked out really well this year for us. And then just look at all this color in here. More zinnias in there. Look at these, just huge. We have had a lot of weeding to do in here. Some of them need some tending back in there. And they're kind of at the end of their run here. But look at these hollyhocks out here. Oh my gosh, they are gorgeous. And they are huge. And I believe this purple one is called borage. And the bees love it. It's good for pollinators. It is throughout. It's back there in the back. And I saw another one over there too. That one has done really well. They've all done really well. So this is right next to the garden, and we'll take you in the garden next. Some beautiful roses, some of which have seen better days, but they smell amazing. Sunflowers that just seeded in, so those have been kind of fun to have. Pretty big. Dill that just seeded in, we kind of have that throughout, which is kind of nice. Over here, we did already harvest our garlic, so those were in these raised beds over here. And here we are at the house garden. So as you can see, it is growing and it does look pretty. At this point, we have got it pretty weed free, but it is not producing the same way that we are used to. The pH at this house is a lot higher than what we're used to. So we are adjusting to that, and we will be amending the soil as needed, and hopefully it has enough time to take effect before next garden season. So let's get in here and show you what we have. Starting on this end of the garden, well, these are just some tomatoes that we plopped in here because we experienced a late frost that really struck a different garden space, and we were having some high pH even higher than in this space in a different garden space, so we pulled them out of up there and put them in here. So these are random varieties, but we just wanted to put some tomatoes in here to see how they would do. So I'm not going to spend much time talking about that. Over here we have some winter squash that are kind of the same deal. They were intended for another place. We put them over here. They are doing okay. They're starting to get kind of bushy, but I haven't seen like tons of winter squash in here. There's a couple little guys. Here's one. I bet this is a spaghetti squash. There's another one. You see in there. Also a bunch of bindweed around it. They're vining like crazy. I anticipate they will be out of the fence pretty soon. Tiny marigold over there. So I really don't see a ton of winter squash growing in there. There probably are a few we're missing, but we're hoping we're going to get something out of those. Right here, we had intended to be a pea or a bean area for the kids to come pick snap sugar peas and those types of things. They have not grown that well. These are actually the peas that we planted on our first planting, and we are nearing like what would be a fall planting. So I'm hoping that now they start to grow. Being we're going to start experiencing cooler temperatures, which is what this likes a little bit more than hot summer. We actually did reseed a couple of the pods here, so hopefully we get something. Over in here, this is something that I'm really glad we decided to do on a trellis. These are Rapicante zucchini, and they will get a big bulb on one end and skinny on the other end. Last year when we grew this too, they were a little lighter on the color, not this like dark green. Yeah, kind of like that color right there. So we're really just starting to get some zucchini growing on these. So these first ones we'll probably just pick off and see what comes next. Sometimes with zucchini, those first ones aren't quite up to par, it seems, in our experience. So we'll see how these go, but these have been climbing and going and growing like every day. I have to come out here and push them through and weave them up in there. So at least we know they're growing. In front of us here we have some herbs. We have been harvesting herbs and drying them. for the pantry, and those have been really nice to have. Back behind us over here, we're kind of skipping around. Right here are some beans. These are yellow beans. I believe they're called Carson beans, and they're just going to be a good bean for the pantry. This is all just our personal home garden stuff that we're planning to keep in our pantry, not really sell out of this particular garden plot. And right here are some cucumbers. We are trying, I think, 4 or 5 different kinds of cucumbers this year. We've just barely started to get them. So I don't have much to speak about them yet, but we know that we love Bite Alpha. And we are also growing Parisian as our pickling cucumber, and those have been going pretty well. We haven't had a ton yet though, but we have made a couple batches of pickles, and that's been pretty nice. So we're going to head back to the front now. Down this row right here, well, we decided to throw in some more potatoes. If you're following our channel, you know that we put 800 feet of potatoes in our back garden that is pretty much failing. Fingers crossed we get something out of them. But when we noticed we were having problems back there, we decided to plop them in here. They look like they're growing and doing really well in here. I wish we would have put a couple more rows in here just to have potatoes in the root cellar, because we're building a root cellar and that's really exciting, and we want to fill it up to be able to have food to eat on all winter. But they're doing pretty well in here. A bunch of them have flowers, as you can see in there. Right here we are growing some green beans, and this is a variety that we've been saving the seed on for a long time. We always make sure to mark off a good little section and let them fully mature so we can save the seed so we can replant. We have 2 plantings here. This row is our first planting all the way down, so we will hopefully be having beans really soon. You can see some of them. Here's an example. They're pretty small yet. Any day now they're going to be ready to go, and we'll be harvesting a lot of beans. And like I said, we don't know this variety name. This variety was given to us by a neighbor, and we have just nicknamed it Bud's Bush Beans because Bud is the guy who was our old neighbor who gave us this bean seed, and we've just continued to grow them. We really like them. So this row right next to it are the same beans, but they are planted a couple weeks later to hopefully extend our green bean harvest. So right here, you notice we have tomato plants, and none of the tomatoes are caged, and they're just kind of sprawling out. These are something else that went into the garden very last minute when we noticed all the other problems in the other fields. So the first couple of varieties are just random varieties that I don't even really care for that much. I know there's like a purple one in here. Here's one that's ripe. I am not too, yeah, it's the first one. I'm not too excited about the tomatoes that we have in here. But halfway through, we have our tried and trusted bush steak tomatoes down here. I believe starting about here are bush steak. And these are just nice red round tomatoes. Not the best example, but it's one of the first ones. Those first fruit, they always don't seem to be that great in our opinion. So like I said, this is a variety that we really do like, bush steak, because it doesn't get very big and it typically produces a ton of tomatoes, like maybe 50 pounds, maybe 60, 70, I don't know, a lot of pounds of tomatoes. Now, with that in mind, these plants are not going to produce that this year. These plants completely froze back. They had ice on the stem. June 19th, I believe, is the day we got really intense frost in the morning, and these completely died back, and then they continued to grow. So we are really lucky that we even have any of these plants to be showing you today, and it's kind of remarkable, but it's a big learning year. It's very interesting to see just how much the plants did bounce back and what they are able to still produce, and we're just hoping we get enough produce. Usually we're like drowning in the produce, but it's a different year. So as you know, a lot of people have a different year every year. Every year in growing something is kind of different. So bush steak tomatoes all the way to the back. In the middle of the garden here, we have a bunch of different zucchini varieties. I know we're growing Ford Hook, and then we're growing one from Haas. I will put the variety name on the screen now. And those are nice yellow ones that we really liked. Ford Hook zucchini is just a nice green zucchini, and those have always been really good producers, and this year is just the same. They've been really good. And that yellow variety from Haas, I have really liked those too. They've been pretty good producers for a yellow variety, and I haven't really found a yellow variety I like prior to that, so I'm glad we tried those out. You should check them out if you're interested. Here's an example. I mean, many people have seen zucchini before. We've been harvesting zucchini like crazy. Probably get that one tomorrow. Famous last words, it'll be 5 more inches long by tomorrow probably. Over here we have some tomatillos. Normally we cage our tomatillos. This year we did not, because well, we just didn't. And I'm not hating it because of this weed mat. So they are sprawled out on the weed mat, and we should end up getting some tomatillos. You can see some of them forming right here. And you might also notice that we have a bunch of random empty spaces with weeds growing out of them. That is because we had plants planted there and they died. Either because a rabbit came and got them, or they were frosted, or voles came and got them. So we've had lots of problems this year with different things. So here are one of those yellow zucchini that I was telling you about. Those have been really good producers. Look at all those on there. A ton. Doing really well. I'm glad we decided to try that variety this year. The stuff behind me is kind of just a mess, and all I'm going to say about them are they are different varieties of winter squash. And we're not going to kind of look in them too much because I honestly haven't seen much action going on under them. And the only reason they're in here like this, kind of randomly, is because of that soil problem that we were having up the hill. We actually dug them up, brought them down here, and they are living, they are doing well, but we'll see what we end up getting. And then the frost happened, so that kind of hurt them a lot too. These plants are doing really well. These are patty pan squash, and I will show you some of them in here. We normally harvest them a little bit bigger, but we have a yellow variety and a white variety this year, and they pretty much just taste like a zucchini if you've never tried one of those before. They're kind of fun to grow though, and we like having them. Here, I'll harvest this one to show you. So these little squash are cute. We normally harvest them a little bit bigger than this, but this will be still pretty good. And they're kind of fun to try. If you haven't tried these, give them a shot. Right here we have some empty pods because these were all eggplant pods, and those eggplants did die. We had a couple that somehow hung on through that frost and everything, and they have not really recovered or done much of anything. Kind of surprised this one even is trying to make flowers, but they're pretty pathetic and sad, so we'll just move on. Over here we have some beets, and these beets are golden beets, which I'm really excited about growing because this is one of the first year that we have successfully grown golden beets. Look how pretty they are. They're going to be gorgeous. I am planning to make pickled beets and probably just can some beets in the pressure canner this year, but these will really be pretty and add a nice pop of color, and they'll be really fun. And if we do go sell at the farmer's market this year, these will be nice to have on our table. Now, speaking of selling these this year, we have had a major vole problem. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's find one, huh? All right, so here is one. This is what I'm talking about. A nice little beet, but it has nibble marks in the side of it. So frustrating. We are going to have to do something about these voles out here. For us, we will probably salvage this, but there's no way we're selling this. And it is just frustrating when you think you have a nice big beet and then you pull it out and half of it is gone. So annoying, and just one of those things you have to deal with when you're growing your own food. So we did a row and a half of beets this year, and I believe there were 3 varieties in there. And then we did a row and a half of onions, and I know there were 3 varieties of onions in here. The 2 white onion varieties, I will name them both right here, this one and this one, are doing really well. They're getting really nice bulbs on them, and they're just looking really great. They're growing, they're doing great. But we did try a purple onion variety, and that is what you see right here. I can count maybe 10 or 15 onions that actually lived. These were all started the same way, all transplanted the same way. They were just more tricky for us, and they did not do very well. So, lesson learned on that variety for us in our growing conditions. And our last thing that is on this edge in the garden are carrots. I believe we planted a couple different varieties this year, but the carrots are nowhere near ready to harvest. Next year I'm thinking of doing carrots a little bit differently and putting them in first. This year we kind of waited till the end to put them in. We should have had them in a long time ago. So we will improve on our carrot growing so we can enjoy more carrots, especially now that we're going to have that root cellar. Well, that is about it for this mid-August, beginning of August garden tour. I hope you enjoyed it. We are growing a lot more in our greenhouse right over there. And back behind that, we have a big cornfield. So those things are doing really well also, and that's where we're getting a little bit more of our produce too. If you want to check out our most recent greenhouse tour, check it out on our channel. I will link it in the cards right here. If you're interested in different tours of different things that we're growing here, please let us know in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching.